Prince of Egypt is the story of Moses, the one that pretty much every single teacher played where they ran out of things to teach in RE or something. But if we change the perspective from the revolutionary sheep man called Moses and to his brother Rameses, it becomes a story of watching your adopted brother return after decades of disappearing, turning your river to blood, and eventually splitting a sea while you mourn the loss of your firstborn child. It's kind of his own personal apocalypse. So let me just put you in his shoes. Imagine for a second that you are Rameses, soon to be known as Rameses the Great. You are part of the great rulers of Egypt. You know, the people that kind of built the ancient pyramids. Now, this could have been some aliens, or more likely some medicine men tripping their balls on hallucinogenic tea and allowing them to see the stars in ways they never dreamed possible. Well, honestly, you don't know. What you do know, though, is back in the day of the pyramids, the Egyptians used to fabulously pay their employees, but later on realized that unionized workforces ask a bit too much. And ultimately, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of casual subjugation of an entire ethnic group so that way you can actually build your own infrastructures. Well, nothing wrong with that, right? You need to continue this thread and live up to the legacy that your father, Seti I, has placed upon you. Now, he is a truly magnificent ruler, a great man by all accounts, and his expectations of you are absolutely absurd. One day though, when you're a little kid, you're chilling by some water, some girl is singing off in the distance, but you don't pay any mind to the little Hebrew girl that's very clearly not lowering her voice as she's singing, and apparently the whole world is singing as well, but that's okay. This is just how it is when people live off of some kind of hallucinogenic cactus or root or whatever it is that these crazy kids do back in ancient Egypt. But some random little kid appears in your palace in a wicker basket of all things. Well, okay. And your mum, the queen, well, she sees that baby as her property. And like, I guess stealing a baby isn't a crime when it's technically your property, is it? I mean, it's still morally dubious, but hey ho, your mum does it anyway because, well, the regular people. And you take this kid in as your brother and, surprisingly, treat him better than all of your other siblings because you don't mention them once in this entire film, nor do they even get a feature. And you grow up with this rambunctious little kid brother called Moses, and he's a bit uncaring, a bit callous, and well, he wants to cause a lot of mischief, and he's always trying to get you and him into trouble. But you accept it, he is your brother, and as much trouble as he gets you into, he gets you out of it all the same. And plus it's quite fun to chase him around the city, you know, especially on the chariots. And he just does not give a does he? The dude literally takes the nose of the Sphinx, or at least that's what it's supposed to be, I guess, not the statue of your father Seti. Either way, as you're trying to escape the nose of your father, you ruminate on how this is a core theme of your brother. He literally does not care about a single thing, and you deeply respect that. Okay, so seriously, how do people not die here, especially the priests? Like, what the hell? Honestly, if she's getting chewed out by your father, you can't hope those priests did die.
Why do the gods torment me with such reckless, destructive, blasphemous sons?
And he's always harping on about responsibility. I mean, come on, man, like, you're a responsible guy. You do your job. It's not your fault Moses keeps trying to destroy the world.
But one weak link can break the chain of a mighty dynasty.
That might be the most cutting thing that you've ever heard anyone say to anyone. And as you storm off, you start to reevaluate what he just said. Your father low-key just said, you're going to bring down the dynasty. And I mean, that's outrageous. It's unfair. Anyway, Moses tries to come and cheer you up, and I mean, you are British, so he largely amounts to him taking the piss out of you and teasing you, and then tossing a water balloon onto some priests to get you in trouble. And I mean, in for a penny, in for a pound, right?
Case, I suppose you care a lot more than I do that we're late for the banquet, for example?
You were just named Prince Regent.
I propose that the High Priests offer tribute to their new regent.
Well, I mean, she's beautiful, but she's much more Moses' type than yours, and so you gracefully give her to him. Apparently, women are objects to be passed on. But watching the back and forth between her and Moses is quite endearing. She would make a very charming bride for your lovable idiot, and since he was kind enough to give you a little tribute and probably advocate for you, you decide to make him Royal Chief Architect. and you go home that night rather excited for the next day, where you and Moses can start your rule together as brothers. You, the king, and him, your most esteemed and trusted royal advisor, right-hand man. The way it is meant to be. The next day, though, he's freaking out about something. And holy shit, he just rugby tackled that guy off the side of a ledge. And he was kind of just doing his job, like he's your whipping boy. Isn't this supposed to be like a kid's film and he just killed the guy live on camera? This is a different world, isn't it? Anyway, Moses freaking out now because, I mean, like, despite the fact that your family has like a direct hand in subjugating and killing thousands of people every single year, killing one of your whipping boys clearly has affected him, which kind of makes sense, actually. They are more worthwhile than a slave. Anyway, some sick chariot skills later, you try to get to the bottom of it. Moses, why? Did anyone ever tell you sound like Lord Voldemort? What?
You saw what happened. I just killed a man.
Is that what you're so upset about? I mean, come on, man.
I will make it so it never happened.
After all, that's what all of the most powerful families in the world are for. If you can't get away with a little bit of cheeky murder, there's not really much point, is there? You need to remind him that you are Quetzalcoatl and Xolotl. No, that's the wrong region. Either way, you are the morning and the evening star. You are Venus. I thought women came from Venus. Anyway, no one is going to care that he killed a whipping boy, especially not by the hands of a prince. Like, when did he suddenly grow a conscience? This is very inconvenient. Like, all you have to do at this point is just control the news and spread the right propaganda and the job is done. And if you say he's innocent, well, he's innocent.
Goodbye, brother.
Well, that sucks. The man that you love above all else is gone. The man that you wanted by your side and wanted to rule Egypt with is heartbreaking, but what can you do? He's clearly deeply disturbed, and besides, he'll probably just run out into the desert and turn straight back around in like a week or two. Not going straight out, right? I mean, what else is there to do out there? Like sheep? What's he gonna do? Become a shepherd? And fucking hell, like, yeah, right, come on, bro. And the years pass, decades pass, actually, and without Moses, actually, things slightly improve. Your relationship with the priests mend, and with no troublemaker, there's no trouble. And actually, they become your advisors in time, and unfortunately, your parents do meet their untimely end, and you are thrust into the limelight as the new Pharaoh. Under your lead and through the years, you make Egypt truly magnificent. You make the kingdom worthy of the gods, and deep down, your father would be proud of you, and that's all you ever wanted. You have a son, and you get married, maybe not in that direct order, and life is good, and you are content, but still you miss your brother, though undeniably your life has probably been a bit easier without him. One day though, you're minding your own business, enjoying some mild entertainment. A man in a red robe appears, and you wonder how a man could dress like that in the desert heat, let alone that he's sauntering up to the throne like he owns the place. He must be a little bit crazy. Well, actually yes, because he is actually your brother. Aren't you a bit early? Early for what? Like, for this, aren't you supposed to be like 80 when you come back? Huh? Anyway, I see you chased after that Midian slice of heaven, didn't you? Yeah, she's pretty cool. What else have you been up to? Well, I got chased by an angel. King Angel? What? What happened? Oh, it's alright. She just chopped off my son's foreskin and the angel went away. What? Yeah, I didn't understand it either, but you know.
We are compelled to remind you that this man committed a serious crime against the gods.
So you pardon him. Your will be done.
You know I am a Hebrew, and the God of the Hebrews came to me.
Has Moses been taking the hallucinogenic tea himself? Like, oh, he sounds like one of your priests now.
He commands that you let his people go.
No. Then he holds out a stick, saying something about the power of God, or Hebrew God, and the stick turned into a snake. Well, that's very quaint. Now, hold on a second. Isn't the snake meant to be like the Hebrew devil or something? Like, you'd have very little understanding of this God, but you understand that there was a story about a snake and a tree and a forbidden fruit and two people that were naked or something. So why is he summoning a snake? This god fellow doesn't really seem to be very consistent. So you get your priest to show you some real gods, and while they break out into a musical number, because apparently you are still on the hallucinogenic tea or something, and that's what everyone does in Egypt. And it would be marginally better if their song was maybe a bit better sung. But hey ho, they managed to turn your 2 sticks into snakes, and that's the real power of Egyptian gods. Right? So you usher him aside and you show him the sights, and you know, the statue of your head is quite large and much bigger than your father's, of course, because you know you are Rameses the Great and he was just the first. What happened to your uncaring and callous brother? Seriously, like, this conscience thing is just really frustrating, and like all you want to do is just like rule Egypt with the accordance of tradition and like be done with it. Like, why does he care so much about slaves? Like, this is all about efficiency. Well, they do so much now. He wants to take away like literally the backbone of your civilization. Oof. So he's committing treason then. He wants to free the slaves, and honestly, there's not just a mild bit of treason where you might say something unsavory about one of your rulers. This is a case of the big treason. This is a death penalty kind of thing, and he wants to undermine your rules. High treason. But either way, you don't really know this Hebrew god all that much, and you're not going to let your kingdom be undermined by one measly god when you have the power of hundreds of more powerful ones. So you decide to make an example out of him. Why you didn't just kill him? Well, maybe you still have feelings for your little brother that you still cherished, and maybe there's a little bit of tough love to make him see the error in his ways and he'll eventually come back to you. Next day, though, you go for a little pleasure cruise to clear your head, and goddamn Moses appears on the banks of the river crying about you ignoring him, and you're like, I'm not ignoring you, bro. You're just not doing what he asks, and nor will you. You have a kingdom. You have an empire, kind of, and the kingdom literally exists off the back of the slaves. Without them, you'll go back to unions and workers' rights, and no one wants that. It's just not very monetarily sound. You know, you want your fancy parties, and you know, you want to eat cake. But he doesn't run away. In fact, he walks forward, and from his staff, the water turns red. And holy shit, what is that? Everyone starts freaking out, and they're saying it's blood. Like, come on now. That's all smoke and mirrors, surely. There's no way he managed to turn an entire river into blood. That's crazy. And your priests get on the case, and they demonstrate to you that your gods can do equal miracles. If by equal you mean turning a bowl of water to red, sure. I mean, if you just looked a little bit closer, you would have seen the blood not touching Moses' robes. But you know, clearly doesn't matter. He's crazy, and you need to go back to work. And I mean, you even hear someone who sounds suspiciously a lot like Jeff Goldblum saying he's crazy too. And thank God there's some sensible Hebrews out there. That night, though, your entire civilization is inundated with music, frogs, and locusts. And I mean, yeah, this kind of happens every year, but this is unseasonably bigger this time. Might be that the blood gave them a little bit more extra nutrients than normal or something. Perfectly reasonable explanation, and still this song goes pretty goddamn hard, and link to it in the description because it's actually kind of a banger. But then the meteors start, and well, that's just maybe it's the time of year, like the Perseids are a bit stronger than normal and they're a little bit closer. It's another very reasonable explanation. There's no way that some unknown god can do something in the face of mighty Ra. Oh, well, clearly the blood in the water had some kind of mega STI because it infects your entire population and yourself included, and you get some full body herpes, and that's a bit frustrating, but nowhere near as frustrating as watching Moses taunt you from the sidelines. And why didn't you just kill him? Like, to be honest, you probably still could, but something stops you. Okay. And then you try and get your priest to replicate these miracles, and they just cannot. It seems that their gods, your gods, is all smoke and mirrors. And now you must confront the actual possibility that something very wrong is happening. Clearly, if this is Moses doing it, he must really hate you, and either way, you will never let his people go. You look at your brother, and you look at his ring, and you just want things to go back to the way they were when you and he were brothers and life was just about getting into trouble and out of trouble. Why did this all have to happen? You took him in, you cared for him, you gave him a life that was beyond any Hebrew's comprehension. But no matter what happens, he's still your brother and you still love him above all else, and especially above all your other siblings. But then your son comes up to you.
I'm frightened. Why is he here? Isn't that the man
And he's right. Moses is the one who did all of this, and you need to remember that. Yes, he was your brother, is your brother, but you need to make choices for the good of the empire, for the good of your son.
Because no kingdom should be made on the backs of slaves.
Maybe he's right about slavery. Maybe in the future what we need is clever financial mechanisms in place that allow us to control people without direct slavery being a factor. That way they think that they're free, but really it's just
Slavery with extra steps!
And then Moses has the audacity to threaten your child. Like, bro, you're talking to the Pharaoh. We might be brothers, but come on, man.
It's time I finished the job.
Yeah, fuck it, why not? I'll just time to kill them all. And that night, you go to bed as the Hebrews slaughter some lambs and wipe their blood over their doors. Now, that's frankly a bit weird, a bit crazy, but you still think that killing Moses isn't worth the effort. What's he gonna do anyway? He's a shepherd. But when you wake up, your son is gone. Not like disappeared. He's just dead. My lord. What? Can't you see that I'm grieving? It appears that every firstborn son has been killed in the night. What? Yes, my lord. But like, I'm the firstborn. Doesn't that mean that I should be dead? Like, what's the cutoff here? Unclear, but it appears that firstborn sons have been killed in the night. Okay, that's fine then, whatever. But then you are rudely interrupted by Moses coming in to gloat once more. And you give up. Like, at this point, what is the point? You're in a bit over your head and you can kind of see that now. And if this guy has some magical bullshit surrounding him, it's probably better to not roll the dice on this. And how can you realistically win? So you let his people go. But a little while later, you change your mind. Maybe it was the fact that when the Hebrews left, they were singing happily and taunting your people, how they just ravished your kingdom, killed your firstborns, and did unspeakable horrors to your people. And they celebrate this fact by singing as they leave. And I mean, like, that song must have lasted all the way to the Red Sea, because they were still singing that when you got to them. Holy shit, it's a bullshit narrative plot device, and at the final moments when you're about to win and they need some kind of miracle to appear, something so insane and so absurd that it just turns the tide, it literally spawns a fire tornado from water to stop you from reaching them. And then the fucking sea splits and they're able to walk through. There should be a name for this actually, like a machination of God's will. Okay, let's make it Latin too. Deus ex machina, why the not? Now at this point, you're probably a little frazzled, a little on edge, and not thinking clearly, because while most sane people would probably have taken all of the events that led up to this point and not followed a group of people walking through a split ocean, because realistically you don't know the dangers that poses and you don't know how that thing has happened, but you are not most people. You are Rameses the Great. So you get your men and you follow the Hebrews in, and just as you're halfway through, the water closes around you. Well, who could have seen that coming? And then by some cruel twist of fate, your life is spared and you spend the next few hours screaming Moses' name into the water. And to top it all off, you hear the music on the other side of the river again. And they celebrate killing your people and destroying your army. And you go back to Egypt and you turn your attention to conquering and building. And you succeed. I mean, you have a few fights with the Hittites and you didn't do that in those days, but you cement yourself in history as Rameses the Great, and a link in the chain that continued the Egyptian dynasty for many centuries to come. And while Egypt may remember you as Rameses the Great, you will always remember Moses and the god that you refused to bow to. Thank you for watching, and please give it a like, but I just want to say, I don't mean any offense with anything that I've said in this thing. It's just a joke. It's just for fun. It's not meant to be taken seriously. If you took offense to this, I'm sorry. It was not meant to be an offensive piece. It is purely for entertainment, and whether you believe in God or not, I don't care. It's up to you. As long as you treat people right and you live a good life, that's all that matters. If you want to practice your religion, more power to you. I will never stand in your way. And honestly, it's a pretty cool story. I mean, sure, the Prince of Egypt is a bit different to the Moses story. I just want to shout out my members, especially Jay and, of course, Lavender, Yuri, and Alan. Thank you. Have a great day and have a great life.